This should be the most familiar, going through and building up each of the parts. So we're in a metric part. I will always encourage you, if you um, jump into this and see a different way, or try it before you watch this video, this is a good time to pause and go through as much of the process as you can complete. And we're still working with the pressure cylinder, but now we're going to do what we've been doing all semester and just make each of these three parts individually. So I will, let's get back to SolidWorks. Start the first, and we're going to do a little more examples with copying the existing sketches. We're going to use contours and regions. So we've done revolves in the top-down assembly and the multi-body, and if you want to stay with that technique, that is fine. I'm going to utilize slightly different with the bottom-up strategy. Okay, I've got my dynamic, or my input on, so let's see, we're 60 there. And then I'm going to go ahead and include the minor diameter of the thread at 21. And then we need a base circle of 75. I think it was 75 anyway. All right, 75 all holes, 60 on the inside. Let's see if I double check the 100. That looked a little more centered on that boss. And I'm not quite seeing it, so I know it's there somewhere. Oh, 100 for all three parts. So 160, 75, maybe it wasn't. All right, so let's go with, make sure that that is the one that I want to adjust, and we're going to go construction geometry. So 80 would be center if we do the 20 on each side. So, okay, that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and input the pattern. So I have my point. And let's go the other route. I've been using the S key, so let's make sure that in the sketch entities you can also find the point as same as going up to the command manager and into the sketch. So place that. So pretty much I'm building all of the geometry that I really need into this one sketch, but I'm adding complexity, so I need to be able to manage this geometry. So sketch entities, and then we also have sketch tools, and we're going to, not seeing it, so we'll go back up to the sketch and circular sketch pattern. We had a total of 8 of those, and my equal spacing and dimension radius are turned on, and we'll go ahead and accept. And is not liking that one, so let's see if it goes that one. All right, so it added something there. All right, so it's probably not liking the vertical. Coincident. So if I go back to that and we take off the coincident, no, how about one of the coincidents? All right, so the vertical probably could have stayed then. We'll just make the line vertical, and maybe the vertical and the other coincident were the issues. So sometimes we just have to diagnose these. So still not liking that. Oh, let's go the other route and make the base circle driven. All right, so I have the diameter of 75, but when I dimension the 37.5, I would have to pick one of those because they're in conflict. All right, so that's my base sketch. I can either convert these entities or I can use this sketch directly. So if I want this to be an envelope, usually for continuity, for somebody else to open this up and kind of see what I'm doing, I would not share the sketch, at least initially. Would leave this as um, a scaffold, an envelope, something that this sketch drives everything else. Pretty apparent that it's the first item, and when you look at it, all the dimensions are here. And then when you start opening up features and there's no real dimensions, and it's kind of a flag that that I use this technique. So to that end, let's go ahead and build this out. So if I name this, I'm going to stay with my envelope terminology, top plane sketch, and I'll convert the OD and the ID and convert, and we're going to extrude that out, and that dimension was 20. Okay. For the next one, we'll open up a sketch on the top plane. The envelope is still shown. One of the things that would happen with the shared sketch is it would hide that sketch, and then we would have to show it and pick in the contours and regions. So here we've opened up the sketch, and I'm going to control select, convert, and then an extrude positive through a positive is just no net gain. So if I go to the 65 millimeter height, then we can accept that. All right, the hole's already in there. So we're ready for the hole wizard item. And oh, I clicked on the wrong one. So S key, hole wizard. There we go. We still are in the M24, so we'll come back to the M8 by 1.25. And it is not going to be an up to next. We're going to do blind in condition. Thread length was 17 and 25 to have a little extra clearance. Thread call out, I'm gonna add a little more to that. Make sure to pick the face, and then we're just selecting for those geometries. At this point, I could do the circular point pattern. Would have to be careful again with that 9th possible center point. In this case, it's probably about as easy just to select. I could also do one and do the circular pattern. All right, we hide the envelope and we'll save this. I already created my folder for the bottom-up assembly. And so this will be the pressure cylinder base. All right, so I mentioned the copying of the sketch. The preferred is just to grab this sketch and Control C and Control V. For this example, I want to grab the sketch geometry. Control C on the keyboard copies it, and then we go New. We're going to open up our part metric, open up a sketch on the top plane, and Control V. Wow, came in with most of it. All right, sometimes it does not come in with all of the dimensions, relations. Okay, we're getting coincidences. I'm not seeing any concentrics, so that's kind of a concern, but looks like everything's moving good. So just be aware of some of the limitations, and looks like it lost the center pattern. All right, so if that's the only issue you really run into, then we're okay with that. So, oh, no, I didn't want to get rid of those. So we'll just go through and delete. And for this one, we'll revisit the circular feature. So this is going to be the gasket. Go ahead and accept it. And I want to, if we were going to utilize this. I think we're doing 8.4. That's about, let's see, 16,000. So that's quite a bit of clearance. Could probably go with the 8.2, 8.3. And if I go that route, then I can't do the feature pattern. So maybe I would have to do the circular pattern to include that. So let's just go ahead and I'll delete that back out, and we'll extrude this up to 3 millimeters. All right, so it's going to contour and region. We need to select inside the area that we want and accept. Hides the sketch automatically, so we're going to show. We could do this. Let's stay with that. Just drawing the hole as opposed to the hole wizard. All right, so we'll see a little bit of a difference. And again, the drawing is optional here, but we'll do that as a informational. So let's go to features. We're going to extrude cut. We'll tell it to go through all. Accept. Now with the sketch being completed, I'll hide that. And we're going to the features, circular pattern, the direction. We can pick our cylinder. There are 8, so it retained that. And the feature is the hole. We could also expand out the flyout and pick the cut extrude. All right, so that's going to be our gasket. And we'll save one more time. And then new, part metric. We can jump back into the first base, and this time I will do Control C at the sketch level. Just make sure to select the top plane, Control V. Still going to be under defined, but we'll see how it moves and what goes. All right, so where last time when I copied the sketch, I did lose a couple of relations, and again that varies when I copy the sketch as opposed to the sketch geometry. I get pretty much everything in place. All right, so when we go, well, pretty much going to be the same thing except for the 13 millimeters. So let's see, which ones do I want here? Well, let's just go ahead and highlight the sketch. I don't need to be in the sketch, so we'll extrude boss base. That's going to be 13 millimeters on the face. We'll pick the ID and the OD. Select those. Again, it hid the sketch, so we want to show that. And then go into the hole wizard. Just double check the clearance. And we're going to put screw clearances of M8. And if I want to see the custom sizing, then the show custom sizing 8.4. And we can just do up to next, and then positions. Don't see the 3D sketch, so just go ahead and select. Again, we can do all of the points. Go ahead and accept. And then staying with the circular pattern, it's going to be mostly the same. We'll pick either the ID or the OD as long as it has the center, can calculate the center. And we had pre-selected the M8 clearance hole, so it goes in, and it's going to do the hole wizard the same as the feature. So let's hide that, go ahead and save. And this is the PC lid. So let's go ahead and revisit the reference geometry mate reference. So we can drag and drop. We did this earlier, and it's a handy tool. If I was doing this a lot, I would want to have these in, just because it speeds up the process. So we're at the base. We'll go ahead and do new assembly millimeter. I want to bring in the base first, and it'll just go origin to origin with the check marks, so that's okay. Inserting the next component. All of these parts are open, and memory hasn't been as much of an issue, but I still like to control how many parts I have open, so I'm still probably going to limit that to maybe 6 to 10 at most, depending on how complicated they are. But if I notice any performance drop off, that'll be the first thing I look at, is closing off some of those parts. All right, so we'll do the select, control select, rotating over to see our geometry. And then the choice is, do I line up with the holes, or do I line up with the body? When I do error checking, because these holes, we're going to make a small change. The holes will indicate or give me a error if something changes in the geometry and doesn't get caught up to the rest of the parts. All right, so the lid, because of that mate reference, jumps right in, and component goes fully defined. So I'm not sure which mates it added. Oh, it did concentric, and coincident. Interesting. So usually I expect that to rotate. So we'll give it the name. And our toolbox should still be open, so we can grab those. And it might even have retained the length. No. All right, we go to 30 and accept. Pop in the rest. All right, and I want to turn off the origins. Now, one of the exploded view options that we haven't used is this radial step. So I want to see what that looks like with our geometry. So we pick our items. I think I got that one. Interesting direction there. Not sure I wanted Z. Still want Y, or well, maybe. Let's see what it does when we start to pull this out. Okay, so I did want Z. And we can hit done. Let's see, went to 100 on the radius, and diverge from axis would allow it to shift, so we'll probably get a location or dimension. Don't really have a direction at that point, so we'll go done. And then that one's not going to be able to apply a radial, so pull that up a little bit, and it went I'm not sure why it didn't give me why it's grayed out on the dimension there, but we'll stay with it. And yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I wonder if that has to do with the radial. Either that or the spacing was on. Anyway, something different, and we'll save this. All right, so our standard process, Usually with the hardware, something like this, we'll add to new folder. I'll do the hardware just to kind of clean up, and as things get more complex and we need to group, the folders are going to be the ones that give us a little organizational process.